Tracy Reinick, Zacks stock strategist, and today I'm going to take a deeper dive into Mastercard and Shopify's earnings. What do they look like? What are the analysts doing? Are they raising or are they lowering? And what are their track records? So these are some of the hottest stocks this week. Let's dive right in and see what's going on. Let's start with Mastercard, ticker MA. Now, it only has that one miss here on their earnings chart right during the pandemic, so not surprising. It was small, just 3% there, but otherwise they've got a perfect record, and that hasn't really been the issue, the beat or the miss type of thing with Mastercard. But the bigger issue is really valuation and what's going on with the earnings. So taking a look over here at the detailed estimate page, we can see that the analysts are kind of mixed. So in the last 7 days, one estimate has been revised lower. That's not that big a deal because there's a lot of analysts covering Mastercard. But one has been raised in the last 30 days. So kind of, they're canceling each other out here to some extent. But it is showing that the analysts are starting to tinker a little bit with their earnings estimates going into this number. Now, you can also see that this same analyst must have lowered here for the full year and maybe for next year as well. But that's not changing the earnings estimates all that much because, again, there's a lot of analysts covering this one. So we're at 811. There was still at 811 7 days ago for the year, and then just 808 30 days ago. So I'm not seeing too much bearishness here in what the analysts are doing. Even over here, we actually see the quarterly going up a penny. But the analysts are a little bit cautious here. Let's just call it that. We still have big earnings growth expected for this year coming off of last year's pandemic year, but also look at 2022. Analysts aren't seeing a change, another 30% for next year. These are just incredible numbers for companies that are this big on the earnings growth, but also the revenue. Look at 22.9% this year. Again, rebounding off of last year when people were not out traveling or spending or any of that with their credit cards. But look at next year, 2022, still seeing that bullish global economic reopening. So Mastercard not looking too bad on that front. What does the price and consensus chart look like when you actually chart it over the last 5 years? So you can see the big earnings gains here. This is impressive, but we had it fall off the cliff, understandably so, last year, and it's still just trying to recover. Analysts got a little bullish here to start off, with their estimates last year for this year and now into 2022, but it's kind of leveled out, and now the analysts are just waiting for more information from the company themselves. And you can kind of see that reflected in the shares. So 1 year, they're only up 8% here as they're kind of just treading water, waiting for some kind of, catalyst to push these shares higher. They're not cheap. They're trading at 44 times. So the growth is still there, but how much you're willing to pay for the growth is the question. So let's switch over to Shopify. So they have an outstanding chart as well. No misses since 2017 there. And almost every quarter are these super long green arrows, which means just a huge beat. Look at this last quarter, 128%. You'd think the analysts don't know at all what they're doing here, right? These shares are up 3,539% in the last 5 years. And just even over the last year, still up 45%. So still rallying. It made that new high here in 2021, has pulled back just a little bit. So, maybe is this a buying opportunity? We don't know. But let's take a look at what those earnings estimates look like, because this one also kind of interesting. So for the quarter, we have one analyst who's bullish in the last 30 days. Nobody's been lowering. So they're not willing to risk it given that earnings chart, right? And given how wrong they've been every quarter. So that's pretty bullish, but nobody's going out on a ledge here and raising dramatically. The earnings for this quarter are expected 126. That's up dramatically from the 68, but that's after the last big beat. Then the analysts saw, hey, we need to be a lot higher here. So they've been raising, and then you get the bigger gains for the year. But take a look here also at 2022, barely any earnings growth because the analysts are getting a little bit cautious, as they were on Mastercard, with how much longer this kind of tremendous growth can continue. But we see it up here in the revenue. This is the revenue column, 57% this year, and then another 33% next year, as analysts still expect that earnings growth to be healthy. So this number over here for 2022, expect this to probably change pretty dramatically. This number of estimates here tells you how many people are covering Shopify. It's a lot, but they're all on the sidelines right here waiting for this earnings report. And then what does the consensus chart look like? So this is a good consensus chart because earnings are on the big time increase after the pandemic has really lit a fire under Shopify's business here. But you can see the narrow range here where they're still kind of expecting the same similar earnings on the chart. And given the valuation at 209 times forward earnings now, these shares are not cheap. What will happen? Will we start to see some treading water like we see with Mastercard? How much are you willing to pay for Shopify's earnings? So far, it's been, sky's the limit. But will it be in the future? This is an important earnings season to find out what could happen. So Shopify and Mastercard are two important earnings reports for this week, but we're getting over 1,000 earnings reports. So I'm going to be covering them on my Twitter feed all throughout earnings season. So be sure to go over there at Tracy Reineck is just my name on the Twitter handle. And you can find even more earnings charts, especially those earnings surprise charts. But these key earnings reports are going to keep rolling out all week long. And I'm going to be taking a deep dive into many of these earnings charts this earnings season. So you don't want to miss a single one. Get them at Zacks.com/YouTube. And as always, you can get all of our promotions and our newsletters, everything that's going on at Zacks.com at Zacks.com/promo. But be sure to get us, and I'll see you again next time with some more earnings charts.